convert the following numbers to base 10. So I have these questions from this is 2025. Actually, let's just say 2015 all the way to 2025 on this topic, both internal and external. So maybe we can start from 2025 backwards. I should have started with this one on part A. So basically what you need to do to convert any number to base 2, base 10 from base 2 is you can make a table like this. It doesn't really need to be this big, so you can write your numbers here. So you can say, you can put your 0, and then 1, 1, 1, and then we have the decimal point here, and then you can say 0, 1, and then in this line you can put the powers of 2. So you say 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So where you have the decimal point here, you have 2 to the power 0, then 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power negative 2, 2 to the power negative 3, then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you may not need the last digits. As you can see, we have no numbers there. So now, the easiest way to find 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 3, and the negatives is to start with this one. Once you find this is a 1, because we know that any number raised to the power 0 is 1. And then from here, to move backwards, just divide 1 consecutively by 2. So you can just say 1 divided by 2, we know that this is 0.5. So 1 divided by 2, this is like 2 into 1, that's 0. You put a 0 and a decimal point, then 2 into 10, that's 5. So 2 into 1 is 0.5. And then next, you say 0.5 divided by 2 to get the number this side. This will be 0.2 into 5, that's 2, remainder 1. So you put a 1 like that, and just put a 1 and then another 0 since we're dealing with decimal numbers. Then 2 into 10, this will be a 5, so this would be 0.25. If this number was needed, I would divide this by another 2, and then to move in this direction, you multiply this by 2. In short, you multiply this by 2, you get this. You multiply this by 2, you get this. You multiply 1 by 2, you have a 2. 2 multiplied by 2, that's a 4. 4 multiplied by 2, you have an 8. And then now, you can multiply like this. So you say 1 multiplied by 8, that's an 8. And then plus 1 multiplied by 4, you have the 4. Plus 1 multiplied by 2, that's a 2. Plus 0 multiplied by 1, that's a 0. You can either write it or skip it. 0 multiplied by 0.5, that's a 0. Then 1 multiplied by 0.25, this is 0.25. And then now you can add them. Let's add the whole numbers first. So 2 plus this is 6. Plus that we have a 14. And then 0 plus 0 plus 0.25, this is 0.25. So to add whole numbers and decimal numbers, you can just say 14. You can put some zeros this side just to balance up with these decimal numbers, and then you put your decimal point for the next digit just below this one here. So you can say 0.25, and then you can add. The idea is to add the ones with the ones, the 10th with the 10th, the 100th with the 100th. So this plus this, you have a 5, you have a 2, and then your decimal point, and then you have a 4, and then you have a 1. So this number in base 10 is 14.25. And then we can attempt the first one. The first one is even easier. So you can make a table like this once again. But since we only have 3 digits, like so. So this is where your decimal point is. just put your 0 there, and then 0.101. So in this case, we have 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power -1, 2 to the power -2, 2 to the power -3, like this. So 2 to the power 0, we know that any number raised to the power 0 is 1. By any number, I don't mean 0, by the way. And then 2 to the power -1 will simply be, remember, we are moving backwards from here, so you can just divide this by 2. As you can see from 1, when 1 is divided by 2, you have 0.5. That's a 0.5. When you divide this by 2, you have 0.25. And then when you divide 0.25 by 2, you have 2 into 0, that's a 0. 2 into 2, that's a 1. And then 2 into 5, we have 2, remainder 1. But because it's a decimal number, you put a 0. So 2 into 10, that's a 5. So this would be 0.125. So if you want, you can even memorize these numbers. But if you can't, just do what I have just done. Because this is basically just 1 over 2. Then this is like 1 over 2 to the power 2. And then now you can multiply. So this times this, that's a 0. And then plus 1 times 0.5, this is 0.5. Then 0 times 0.25, this is 0. And then plus 1 multiplied by 0.125, this is 0.125. And then now you can add them. So you add the 0.5 to, remember to align the decimal point to this one. The other numbers are just zeros, so you can just ignore them. You can even put zeros there to balance the numbers up. So this plus this is 5. This plus this, you have a 2. This plus this, you have a 6. Then this plus this, that's still a 0. Then you have your decimal point. So the number 0.101 in base 2 is equivalent to 0.625 in base 10. Then we can solve 2 more. Maybe we can use the arrow method in case you're not comfortable with this. But I think it's the best when it comes to such kinds of numbers. So here we have 11.001. So if you're using the arrow method, you do this. So now you can just write the numbers down like so. So you can put your decimal, oh no, you multiply now. So you're basically multiplying by 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So now you check where the decimal point is. So your ones should be here. So this one here will be raised to the power 0 so that you have a 1 because these are ones. And then you have negative powers this side because these are decimal numbers. And then you have positive powers here. So now remember, this is a 1. So 2 to the power 0 is 1. And then this side, you're just multiplying this 1 by 2. So 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, or 2 to the power 1 is 2. And then this side, you are dividing 1 by 2. So, yeah. So you can say 1 divided by 2, this is 0.5. So you multiply by 0.5. And then you have 0, this 0 multiplied by, you divide this by 2 once again. So when you divide 0.5 by 2, you have 0. This is 2. So 2 remainder 1. And then 2 into 10, that's 5. So this will be 0.25. And then you do the same thing here. You have 1 multiplied by, you divide this by 2 to find this. So you can just divide 2 into 0, you have a 0. 2 into 2, you have a 1. 2 into 5, you have a 2. Remainder 1. And then you put a 0. 2 into 10, that's a 5. So this is 0.125. And then now you can multiply and add the products. So this times this, you have 0.125. these are zeros, and then 1 times 1 you have a 1, 1 times 2 you have a 2. So you can say 2 plus 1 plus the zeros, which you can ignore, plus 0.125. So this plus this, you have a 3, and then plus 0.125, which is simply 3.125 when you add like so. So you can just put zeros there to balance. Then this plus this, you have a 5, we have a 2, we have a 1, and then we have a 3, and then a decimal point. Let me just solve one last problem, and then you can attempt the rest. So the last one, I think the best method is using the table, because this one is, the arrow method is a bit involving. So maybe let me just solve this one, because it's a bit harder in that it has more digits than this. So we can just draw our table like so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 6 digits. 1, 0, 1, and 0, 1, 1. So we have our decimal point here. So this is where we have our 1. At this point, I'm sure you understand, so I may not even put the 2's. So you just put your 1 here. Remember, this is where you have your 2 to the power 0, because these are 1's. In short, once you find your 1's, just put the 1 on it. And then to move backwards, divide this by 2. So 1 divided by 2, this is 0, and then you put a 0 there. 2 into 10, that's a 5. So we have 0.5 here, and then 0.5 divided by 2, you have, that's a 0, and then 2 into 5, that's a 2, remainder 1, but because we are dealing with decimals, you put a 0 there. And then 2 into 10, this will be a 5, so you have 0.25, and then next you have 0.25 divided by 2. This will be 0.2 into 2, that's a 1, 2 into 5, that's a 2, remainder 1. You put a 0 there and say 2 into 10, that's a 5, so you have 0.125. And then to move in this direction, just multiply this by 2, or you can just say 2 squared, 2 to the power 1 and then 2 squared. Positive powers are easy, so you can just say 2 times 1, that's a 2, and then 2 times 2, that's a 4. Then now you can multiply 1 by 4, that's a 4, then 0 plus 2, that's a 0, 1 times 1, you have a 1, 0 multiplied by 0.5, that's a 0, 1 multiplied by 0.25, that's 0.25, 1 multiplied by 0.125, this is 0.125. And then now you can add the numbers. So this plus this is a 5. These are whole numbers. You can add them without a lot of challenges. Then let's add the decimal numbers. So to add the decimal numbers, make sure that the decimal points are in the same line. So this is 1, 2, 5. So you can put a 0 there just to balance things up. This plus this, we have a 5, we have a 7, we have a 3, and we have a 0. So this is 5 plus 0.375. And then now we can add a 5 to this. You can even put zeros there if you want. So that's a 5, that's a 7, that's a 3, and then that's another 5. So this will be 5.375, and you're done. So now you can attempt the rest of the problems.